I'm not going to rear a bunch of heathen around here that go to public meetings and can't even behave. Look at me! Paul said, I've learned. How? He said, I've learned it because I know Him. I don't mean know Him in salvation. I mean I know Him. I know Him. We walk together. We talk together. I know Him. Paul said, I say again, they can take away that house. They can come and foreclose your house and move you out of it and take it away. They can take away that car. They can take away that money. But Paul said there's something in my breast they can never take away. They cannot take away the fact that I know Him. If your happiness is wrapped up in a someone rather than a something, then you are as happy as that someone is permanent. If your happiness is wrapped up in a something, the Bible says all of these things shall pass away. If your happiness is wrapped up in a someone, then you'll be happy as long as that someone lives. And is it not true? He was alive, He was dead, and He's alive forevermore. I know Him. I walk with Him. I talk with Him. I know Him. And Paul said, He ever lives. And because He ever lives, I'll always be happy. Because my happiness is built on someone who always is alive. Paul said, I know Him. How can you take it, Paul? How can you take it? Paul said, I can take it because on the Damascus Road I saw a light. And I looked up and I saw someone. And I said, Who art thou, Lord? And he said, I'm Jesus whom thou persecutest. And I said, Lord, what would you have me do? Paul said, I met him. I met him. And I can take it because at Lystra they stoned me outside the city, but I was caught up into the third heaven. And there I saw things unlawful to utter, the glories of God in the presence of Christ Himself. And I saw it. That's how I can take it. How can you take it, Stephen? With stones falling off your head and knots on your head and blood streaming down your body and you're about to die outside the walls of the holy city. How can you take it, Stephen? Stephen says, I can take it because I know Him. I know Him. I see the glory of God in Jesus standing at the right hand of God. That's how I can take it. How can you take it, Isaiah? With them hissing, stoning you, and calling you dirty names, and stiff-necked people. Their words are like briars and thistles and thorns. How can you take it, Isaiah? And Isaiah said, I can take it because I know Him. Back yonder, I saw the Lord high and holy lifted up, and His train filled the temple. And I said, Woe is me, for I am undone, for I dwell in the midst of a people of unclean lips, and mine eyes have seen the Lord. Let me tell you, ladies and gentlemen, now you hear me and you hear me well. This is a heart-sick old world this morning. This is a world of tears and sorrow and heartache and unhappiness and misery and cancer and leukemia and wayward daughters and sons and war and riot. Let me tell you, ladies and gentlemen, the reason you don't take it is because you have not learned to know Him. To know Him. How can you take it, Paul? I know Him. I know Him. And the power of His resurrection and the fellowship of His sufferings. What Paul was saying is, I'd rather have Jesus in here alone with me than the whole world without Him. How can you take it? Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, the fire heated 7 times as hot as it was, and there you are in the fiery furnace. How can you take it? They said, we can take it because we know Him. There's one in here with us who's the Son of Man Himself. How can you take it? John, on the Isle of Patmos alone, exiled away from friends and loved ones and all that materially and temporally is dear. How can you take it? And John said, I can take it because I know Him. I've seen the glories of the millennium. I've seen the rapture of the church. I've seen the marriage of the Lamb. I've seen the judgment seat of Christ. I've seen the blessings and glories of God's future for me. I can take it because I know Him. How can you take it, Moses? Moses said, I can take it because I endure as seeing Him who is invisible. Oh, you hear me this morning. You better learn to know Him. You better learn to know Him. You better learn to spend some time with Him. This is not the kind of world that you're going to enjoy unless you know Him. Hey, here's a couple. They just got married. They're in love with each other. They just fell in love. They just got married, and they got about $25 for a honeymoon. That's all they've got. And so they go on a one-day honeymoon to the rescue mission down here. They don't have any money. They got enough money to pay for a week's rent in an apartment somewhere. And he's got to find a job. Are they happy? Yeah. You know why? They have each other. Oh, I count it a privilege here His cross to bear. 'Tis heaven to me where'er I may be, if He is there. But honeymoons end, and wives die, and husbands pass away, and wives have to go to cemeteries and watch them as they lay the box that contains the remains of the husband that she's loved. He's gone. She can't be with him anymore. But blessed be God, Jesus is always there. If you know Him, if you know Him, if you know Him, you can be happy. A tent or a cottage? What should I care? They're building a mansion for me over there. To know Him. Paul, how do you take it? There's another reason Paul said I can take it. And Paul said I want to invest in others. Let me read for you Philippians chapter 4, verse 1, one of the sweet chapters in all the Bible. And here's that inner contentment Paul is talking about. Paul says, therefore, my beloved, dearly beloved, my brethren, dearly beloved and longed for, my joy and my crown. Paul said, you're my joy. Paul, how do you make it? I make it because I know Him. Paul, how can you have this contentment, this inner sufficiency? I can have it because I've invested my life in others. Ladies and gentlemen, nobody is happy who lives for himself. The only way you'll ever find happiness is live for somebody else. Almost everywhere I go. Almost everywhere I go, I meet people that bring joy to me. You know why? I've invested in their joy. Last week up in Washington, D.C., I had a little tough time in some respects. The situation wasn't quite what I thought it should be, and I preached a little harder than I usually do. And I was real mean. Man, I was mean. Can you feature that? I was mean. I know it's hard for you to understand, but and I'm away from home sometimes. I get pretty rough. And I was mean. And after the service, I went back to the book table, and I felt a bit lonely. And I tried to help. I had. I tried to help. I wanted to help some people so bad, but to do it, I had to give them some medicine. It didn't taste good, and they didn't like it. And a couple came back, and they said, Brother Hyles, we have something for you. I said, what is it? And they gave me a package. I thought it'd be a bomb, or something. They gave me a package. Opened it up, and it was a big jug of honey. They thought I was so sour. I needed all the help I can get, I guess. Big jug of honey. It was somebody to whom I'd been a blessing years before, whose family I've tried to help. And they said, thank you for helping our kids. And they gave me something. All of the day I was in a distant state. No, I preached hard that night, and I was tired, and I was weary. And I wanted to eat a bite. I hadn't had a bite all day, not one bite all day long. And I wanted to eat a bite before I went to bed. And I went down to the restaurant to eat a bite in the motel, and the thing was closed already. I thought, good night. And I said, well, where is the candy machine? I thought I'd fall from grace and eat something with granulated sugar. And where's the candy machine? And they said, we don't have a candy machine. I said, what kind of a backwoodsy place is this? You close at 10 o'clock, don't have a candy machine. I'll tell you how hungry I was. I'd have drunk a cup of coffee if I could have found it. And so I wanted something, and I went to my room, and I was so hungry, and I was so tired. I thought I had to eat, or I couldn't change clothes for bed. And so somebody knocked on the door. And I said, who is it? And there was no answer. Who is it? And there was no answer. And I went to the door and opened it, and there was a sack. And in that sack, all kinds of precious fruit, plums and peaches and oranges and grapes and dates and so forth. And a little note said, you don't know me, but you did something for me one time that nobody else has ever done. And I heard you like fruit. And I sat up in the middle of the bed and said, thank God He loves His children. Oh, I wish I could get this over to you. I wish I could get you to quit thinking about what you have. And Paul said, I invest in others. I was thinking last night, when I was a kid, and I don't know why I thought about this, when I was a kid, I used to love gym class. That's all I ever liked. Dr. Evans is gym. And didn't care a thing about the rest of them. Greek was always Greek to me. And trigonometry, I looked for X for 8 years. Never found it. Tried it in algebra and trigonometry. Never found it. Cosine. To